Today we read the story of Lazarus and his sisters Mary and Martha. They are distraught because their brother was very sick. They sent word to Jesus, but he did not come. Their brother died and Jesus still did not come. We read from John chapter 11, verses 17 to 44. When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, some 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, while Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world." When she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary and told her privately, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." When she heard it, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come to the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. The Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary get up quickly and go out. They followed her because they thought she was going to the tomb to weep there. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, already there is a stench because he's been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. And Jesus looked upward and said, "Father, I thank you for having heard me. I know that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, he cried in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." The Gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Grace to you and peace. Amen. I know it's a bit of a deep dive, but stick with me for a little bit. One of the nominated Best Pictures from the year 2000 has continued to be praised for its dramatic surprise ending. The movie was The Sixth Sense, written and directed by a young newcomer named M. Night Shyamalan. Bruce Willis starred as a child psychologist whose young patient seemingly possessed the supernatural ability to see and speak with the dead. Spoiler alert, because I'm going to give away the surprise ending that so wowed all the critics and viewers like me. If you haven't watched this 23-year-old film yet, I think that's more on you than on me. Anyways, In the movie's dramatic conclusion, the young boy has grown in confidence and beyond the fear of the dead who continue to seek his help. The psychologist and the audience recognize a truth that has been so cleverly hidden right in plain sight throughout the length of the movie. It turns out the psychologist has been dead the whole time. Boom. None of us watching this movie for the first time had any idea. I still remember sitting in my seat in the theater so stunned by the twist ending that I wanted to go back out and buy a ticket for the next showing. I desperately wanted to rewatch the movie and find all the clues to the truth that I had missed the first time through. There were, of course, an embarrassing amount of them, really. But I take comfort in knowing that I wasn't the only one to miss them. That nearly everyone did was the masterful storytelling and filmmaking work of Shyamalan that received so much praise and has been copied so frequently since. The surprise ending that makes you want to go right back to the beginning. I think this is exactly what our gospel storyteller John is up to with today's passage, featuring Mary and Martha and their brother Lazarus. For those of us who even generally know the story of Jesus, or even this particular story of Lazarus, there's little surprise left for us. But if you insert yourself into this story as it's unfolding, the impact could be profound. Ever since Jesus first invited the disciples to come and see, they, and us along with them, have been witness to this miraculous collection of signs. 6 of them so far. Today's makes it 7. These signs have been pointing us to the truth about Jesus that our storyteller insisted at the outset. This is the Word made flesh. God's very self embodied in this person before us. Every encounter with Jesus has been to reveal something truly divine. As we've followed along, you might take note that each subsequent sign has seemingly been more consequential and raised the stakes even higher. We started with water turned into wine. A sick boy was healed, and then a paralyzed man. 5,000 hungry followers were fed, and Jesus impossibly walked on water. Last week, we heard the story of sight brought to a man born blind. In most cases, the stories were told in a recognizable way. Jesus performed the sign, there was conversation amongst those who witnessed it, and then Jesus explained what he was up to. With this 7th sign that we witness today, the pattern reverses. Jesus starts by explaining the ultimate purpose of what will occur with Lazarus, which then leads to a set of conversations wondering the practical and abstract implications of what all this is about. I am the resurrection and the life, declares Jesus. Lest there be any confusion as to what this means, Jesus acts by calling into the tomb for Lazarus, who has been long dead, and calling him back to life. How could the stakes be any higher? This isn't running out of wine at a party, wondering if there's enough bread to go around. These aren't just life-threatening circumstances. This is the very absence of life. Lazarus was dead. Not just mostly dead, not just somewhat dead. He was 4 days dead and buried, stinky dead. So when the dead man emerges from the tomb, aren't we immediately compelled to rewind the story? How do we make sense of something so unexpected? Well, we go back to the beginning, using what we know now, and we take in the story once more. This will be good practice because guess what? Another spoiler alert. This isn't the last time that life will come after death. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Every step of the way, everything that John has been sharing, everything that Jesus has been saying, everything the disciples and the people and us have been witnessing points to this. I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. And yet, death still stands in the way. Death stands in the way because my friends have been diagnosed with cancer. Death stands in the way because responsible gun ownership is an elusive aspiration. Death stands in the way because we use our bank accounts to keep score in a game that most aren't even invited to play. Death stands in the way because the fragile egos of the powerful are apparently more important than the very existence of the powerless. And because death stands in the way, Jesus comes to Mary. And though he knows how God will act in the moment to come, he cannot stop the tears. First Mary's, and then his own. This incarnate Word has delivered 6 previous signs, reinforcing his divine ability. But what could be more human than to recognize the suffering of another? Take note. Jesus' tears aren't just for the dead, for he knows they will return to life. Jesus' tears are also for the living, because death still stands in the way. And now it's Jesus' turn to come and see. In the face of this heartbreak, we encounter the story of a God who does not let death have the final word. With tears streaming down his face, Jesus confronts death itself, standing in the way, yells into the darkness of the tomb, and calls forth life. My prayer this day is that through our tears, we too might confront the darkness, confront the cancer and the gun culture, confront the selfishness and the rigged systems, confront the powerful and their fragile egos. To death standing in the way, we call for life, trusting in the one who stands with us, tears and all. This is the light that will surprise the darkness into submission. This is the ending that we have been promised, and this is the reason we go back to the very beginning. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him, not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life. And the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. Thanks be to God. Amen.